welcome to the Ecommerce Alley podcast, where we believe that great brands are built on passionate leadership, smart operations, and of course, powerful marketing. I am your host, Josh Coffey, the founder of the Ecommerce Alley and part-time comedian. And so today I'm really excited because I have two wonderful guests with me that have built an incredible business that is quite delicious. And both of them are going to be talking about so many different aspects of how to build a business, how to build a team, and so many different pieces like that. So I am excited to dive in. So with me, I have Tal and I have Raj. So good to see you guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello. So let's talk a little bit about your business. So and actually, before we do that, I'd love for you to each introduce yourself, if that's okay, and maybe talk about the roles that you have within the business.
Sure, I'll start. My name is Tal. I'm one of the founders of Woops, our company. I lead the brand design and creatives in the company. We're celebrating 10 years very soon.
That's amazing. And yeah, so Raj, what's your kind of role?
Sure. I'm also one of the co-founders alongside Tal. And both Tal and I have actually gone through various roles in the company over the last 10 years. But as of today, I'm heading up retail and the franchise side of the business. So, we don't really like to have titles, but in general, taking care of all the retail and franchise locations.
Wow. And as far as like from the company standpoint, talk a little bit about the company, just so everybody listening has an idea of what you actually sell and how delicious it is.
Raji, I'll let you.
Tal, you want to start with that?
No, I'll let you.
Oh, you want? Okay, sure. Okay. So first and foremost, Woops is the largest French macaron company in North America. And how we define that is through the number of macaroons sold under a brand at retail. So it's very exciting that we built this business over the last 10 years in doing that. That being said, even though kind of right up front we are French macaroons, there's kind of more to the business than that. It's just not selling one or two macaroons. We're largely a formidable gifting business. And that's for personal gifting, corporate gifting, employee gifting. So the angle that we take is we want to take people through flavor journeys and have them try different macaroons and enjoy the amazing process and the feelings that you get when you get a nice box of Woops macaroons. And that experience is unbeatable. So we just want to continue to grow our business, sharing one gift at a time, largely with French macaroons.
I love that. We've received, Tal, you guys have sent us a couple boxes over the last few months and they're gone, I think, in a matter of like the first day. So, they're toast as soon as they get here. I love what you were saying, Raj, a flavor journey. That's a really great way to describe it. So I'll kind of give my feedback and my perspective. So when we got them, first of all, your packaging is incredible. The sleeves on everything, the sheer quality of the packaging is just mind blowing. It's probably one of the best packages from a packaging standpoint that I've received, like really, really solid. And then you open up this lid, and I don't know if it's called a lid. I don't know. Is that what it's called? You open up the flap. The box. You open up the box and it says you hit the sweet spot. You have all these macaroons in there, and then there's like is it a flavor guide? I don't know what it's called, but
exactly,
it shows all the flavors. But you look at them, and sometimes you can match up the flavor to the picture and the name, and sometimes it's like, ooh, this could either be Nutella or it could be another chocolate one. And it's kind of like it is a journey. And so like our team, whenever we've gotten them, we're all just like, okay, we're all trying to like get the ones that we want to try first, and the one we got last time. Hey, there's two of these. I want to try that. You try this. So I love that you've taken that approach from like a flavor journey, and I think I couldn't put that in words. I think that makes so much sense with flavor journey.
It's absolutely what it is, and it happens every time, and it's amazing to see that every time again and again. It just turns into this experience that people enjoy together, because you have this box of macarons, and as soon as you taste one, you just look around and you're looking for people around you, and you're just like, really, you have to share it with someone, and you have to think together what's that flavor, and it really becomes this experience, kind of wholesome experience between the packaging and the flavors and like the togetherness of the experience. It never
Yeah.
fails.
And the funny thing is, I mean, just being at retail, and of course on the gifting side, from shipping and whatnot, we see that happen with a 2-year-old, a teenager, a millennial, someone older. And just, this weekend, went through a flavor journey with his grandmother who bought a box of 12, and she was just, going one at a time. So it's really pulling out that human need to go through that journey. And we're really hitting that sweet spot, pun intended.
Yeah. No, I think it's so cool. And I think that's one thing that, from my perspective as a consumer, is such a differentiator. Like the fact that the experience, I would just say the experience. When I look at the experience of the brand, top to bottom is really, really, really pristine. Like this morning, just fun fact. So this morning, our team we have a call at 8:30 every morning. Well, I had sent a link to I found your gifting guide section on your website, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we need this for our clients, and we can customize it. And so I sent it over to our team in Slack. And Maya, who leads our meeting, we're all waiting on this huddle link for like 5 straight minutes. It's like 8:35, and we're like, where's Maya? She's never late. And then she pops on. She's like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I got lost in Woops website, going through all their different pages. It's so beautiful, and everything is just so great, from like the product photography, and I got sucked into the website. So I think your experience from the website to the delivery to the actual consumption of the product is really, and that's just not me blowing smoke. Like that's my perception of it. Really, really good stuff.
I think what we try to do since day one really is to take this really beautiful prestige, premium product, and maintain the quality and the premiumness in that product, but make it more accessible, kind of bring it down to everybody, really. Because when we started, macarons were only like, that's something that you find in Paris or in like super premium La Dorée French style shops, like super boutique. And I think what we did, and maybe we were the first one to do it, or around that time, was to kind of really take that amazing product that you can find only in boutique places in Europe, etc., and make it accessible for everybody to enjoy that experience. It's
without being pretentious or too annoying either.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. So tell me about, the business, you said you're about to pass 10 years. Tell me about like how did the business start?
Raj, I love hearing you tell the story. So. Okay.
Well, I'm going to give you the quick and dirty version, and then we'll get into the details. But one of the most common questions is, how did you start, and where does the name come from? So the one or two liner is, 4 friends came together in a hobby little business to test, selling French macarons at a holiday market. And after selling $250,000 worth of macarons over 9 weeks, whoops, we had a business. So that's kind of the tagline and the funny punchline. But, in reality, just in terms of details behind the story is, yes, some friends kind of saw an opportunity in New York City's Bryant Park holiday market, which happens every year. It's a beautiful, almost like a German-style Christmas holiday market. If when you go to Europe during the holiday season, all these little huts of vendors selling beautiful holiday stuff. And that's the gorgeous market that this is. And back in, 2008 to 2010 was the heyday for cupcakes. And when cupcakes kind of just started crashing, another thing, a trend in macaroons or French macaron, was popping up, and we saw an opportunity to have French macaron at this holiday market. So it truly was a hobby and a test, and I think the business originally was called just Macaron and Cookies. No real branding per se. Tal, pregnant, how many months? I think 7 months. Is that correct? 8 months pregnant, was running the business herself right up front. She did all the initial design and the layout of this 10 by 10 kiosk. And of course, the other friends were involved, obviously on the monetary side, the investing side, whatever. But again, it was supposed to be a kind of a test. And yes, in 9 weeks, we sold $250,000 worth of macaroons. We couldn't keep up. But at that point, there was people were seeing this ability to have French macaroons in a small location. And so not only were we successful there, then a lot of mall companies and leasing agents started reaching out to us saying, you need to blow this business out through lots of locations. And then we started our journey from there.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, we finished our first year after that, I think, I think we had like 12 locations in different malls across the tri-state area. So that was our first year. Then, of course, we made a ton of mistakes, and we ended up kind of closing some of them and then opening them again in better places. But I think what we tried to do right from the beginning, because we all come from different restaurant, coffee shop, kind of food industry backgrounds for many years. And the one thing that was really, really important to us was to really simplify things. All of us, I come from like restaurants and kind of more high-end service, and my partners come from more coffee shop, but still super complex operations, like a giant menu and kitchens and just like crazy operation. And what we wanted to create is a concept that is super simple, that you can build up in a matter of 1 to 3 days. That doesn't require you to take like big loans. It doesn't break your bank, and you're not gonna think that you're risking your entire kind of financial situation for a business. And really, that's how we grew so quickly. Like we managed to develop this very, very simple business model that allowed us that growth and allowed us also to make a lot of mistakes on the way without crashing, without it turning into a disaster. So, yeah.
That's such a cool story. And I'm no mathematician, but if I was to calculate the number of macaroons you sold in 9 weeks, that sounds like a lot.
100,000.
So. Okay, because that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, okay, that's 100,000 macaroons in 9 weeks. That's a lot. So how in the world were you baking these? Do you bake them? I'm not sure the process, to be honest. Yeah. But how are you making them that many so fast? I feel like if you couldn't keep up, like how are you maintaining that?
It was a process. We did have a part. So it was a recipe kind of that was put together with such friends, and one of them did have a small bakery that we were really utilizing, and that was a full-time business, and again, this was just going to be a side gig that blew up. So it was. I remember telling, I think. You would send out messages like almost crying, saying, "Okay, we're sold out. We don't have macaroons. We have people lined up."
We were living from one day to another. It was crazy. Like we literally did not keep up. Like the first year, it was like just like we would bake, freeze, and send straight, and it was just it was really, really crazy. The second year was even worse. And I remember kind of sitting every night and looking at our inventory and kind of struggling. How the hell am I gonna, make sure that every location gets something to kind of keep up with the next day? And it's like that's how December looked for us. Like every day, improvising somehow to get by.
Yeah, it wasn't perfect. It was just. As Tal's saying, improvise, just going with the flow. and letting it happen.
There were days in which we sold only two flavors, and some days in which we had only 5, and then it was just a lot of improvisations. Yeah.
I was going to say Santa's elves must have been baking really fast to be moving that many macarons in December. That's
they were eating half of the product as well. So it was.
That's what I was thinking, Tal. When you were doing inventory, I feel like the inventory would have been lower by the time you finished doing inventory. I would have been eating those along the way. Like, ooh, this is good. This is good. Wow. And I think that I just want to pause there for a moment for anybody like listening right now. Like, you guys have been in this for 10 years. And like you said, that first year, you had those ups, you had those downs. Like you mentioned, you opened some things, you had to close some things, you experienced some challenge. And I think that too often, everyone looks at people that are 10 years in front of them and then they think, oh, I should be here. And it's like, you guys have probably been through so much in 10 years that you can't even condense it into a conversation. Like there's probably so many failures and things that you've had to rebuild in 10 years that I'm just going to throw that out there for anyone listening and hears all this. Like even these two right here that are wildly successful have experienced those moments. And I think that's important to remember.
Tons and tons of lots of failures, lots of wins. Even just yesterday, Tal was mentioning in our internal call, it's 10 years, and it shocked me for a second. Of course, I know it was 10 years, but it's just when it sunk in, it was like my life or the Woops life flashed in front of our eyes for a second. I was like, wow, it's been a roller coaster. There's no doubt about that. Big roller coaster with lots of twists and turns.
Yeah.
And probably tons of recipes, I'm sure. Tons of recipes. Well, hey, actually, speaking of recipes, I'm curious. Is there a recipe that was really good that you guys that didn't make it in the box that you maybe wish, maybe one day we'll bring that back?
Plenty. Yeah.
A flavor. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite flavor?
I think for me, the two best flavors we have are the pistachio and the honey lavender. Those would be mine. You know how sometimes you go to I used to say it all the time. Like, how do you know a good gelato store as opposed to an okay one? Like, you always want to try their pistachio flavor, because you can really tell on pistachio whether they're using like a real pistachio paste or like a real pistachio kind of flavor, or if they're like cheating with almonds or in coloring and etc. And our pistachio is just phenomenal. Like it really shows it's an example of how important quality is for us. Pistachio would be mine, and then honey lavender is also like a very, very unique, really subtle, just like such elegance in the mouth when you're eating it. So yeah, those would be mine. And it's so pretty also. It has this gold brush on it.
Yeah.
And so Tal is a lover of classics, and of course, within our business, we've got multiple personalities, and I fit kind of between classics and crazy American flavors, or that excites American palates, such as cotton candy, and we've had, even just red velvet and birthday cake. They are big sellers, and sometimes, when we're talking to our purist friends, they're like, "Why are you guys producing these flavors?" But the reality is, the American public, there's a certain palate that they like, and especially they feast with their eyes, and these are beautiful macaroons. So we've got this nice wide range of classics to kind of new age French macaroon flavors. I sit kind of in between. I love salted caramel, or even just peanut butter and jelly. It's just, it's really how we've created it. The mouthfeel, the texture is phenomenal. And there have been so many flavors that have come and gone that are very exciting. We've had different versions of mango. We have different
we had a
ingredients that you
London
had now.
fog flavor that was
Yes.
like
Nice.
Yes.
Earl Grey bergamot
Earl Grey.
oil. We had, I think we also had like spicy chocolate for a while, right? Yeah.
Ooh,
But you know what?
yeah,
The
I loved
interesting
Wow.
it.
thing is
Yeah.
that since we started, since day one, the top four flavors are the same top four flavors. Like it's it's pretty shocking when like maybe I think maybe one flavor managed to kind of enter that top five that wasn't there from the beginning, but the the customer's palate is pretty consistent on that. Like yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it's tough. Tal and I like to play around and introduce new flavors, but in the end, you're running a business, and it's very analytical. And when you look at the top 20 flavors and sort it by what's selling, yes, Earl Grey, which is an amazing flavor, by the way, love to figure out how to bring that back, but it just wasn't selling. And if people are selecting one or two macaroons, this was kind of early in Whoops's realm when we were largely focused on that individual experience rather than so much gifting. If you only had a choice of two, you'd really go with what you'd really want to eat, which is a Nutella or red velvet or cookies and cream. Now that we're pushing into gifting and really taking people through a flavor journey, I think there's going to be much more development of flavors coming in. But it really is very analytical. What sells? And as Tal is saying, those top classics really sell, regardless of the age of a person. So, we got to go with what the information says.
So, so how are you guys? I'm curious, like from a, like in the gifting industry, and you and like the food in that. How are you really pushing to differentiate yourselves in a competitive market like that? Like one thing I noticed is I know you call your I don't know if you'd call them your loyal customers Whoopsters, which I thought was pretty cool. But like, what are you doing to really differentiate yourselves?
This is a good question. That I think from a marketing perspective, that's one of the challenges that every brand would have, is the ability to distinguish yourself from others, and to be able to communicate to your customers and audience why they should come to you as opposed to anyone else. And you're right, like the gifting. The gifting world, the gifting industry, especially now, kind of after COVID, even more, is like super, super, super competitive. And what we try to do, as a small brand that competes with a lot of like gifting platforms of sorts, and like huge gifting brands like Harry and David's, and Edible Arrangements, and all of those is. To really kind of go down to the basics and make sure that our experience is what we said before. Like you get a full experience. Like I like to say that we have the gift that everybody wants because it has everything. It's not. It doesn't. It has a story. It doesn't only have a story, and it's not only beautiful, and it's not only amazing packaging, and it's not. It's also delicious, and it takes you, like the experience that it gives you is a very, very unique experience that not a lot of products actually achieve. You can always get a huge basket of chocolates and fruits and snacks, etc. And it feels super big, and it's really impressive on the first minute that you're looking at it. But then, like when you start choosing what's actually inside it, you end up pushing, 2/3 of what you got to the side because, and what our gifts do, like yes, they're very kind of specific, and they're not like giant in size, but you hold it and you feel like whoever sent it to you really, really, really must really care about you, because there's something very, very special, and it really shows that whoever sent it really invested thought and care in this. So I think this is how we try to distinguish ourselves, and then of course we are very, very we put a lot of efforts on design and how things look and presentation. But for us, it's a journey. Like you start with that and you end with an amazing flavor in your mouth. So yeah, I think that's how.
And if I can just add, there's a few other facts that are important and help kind of shape why we stand out. One, these are probably the toughest pastries to make in the world, and the toughest to make consistently. As of today, there's very few international players. Yes, if you're a hobby baker, you can kind of make it, or a pastry artist, you can make it. But those same people are some of our biggest customers because they realize how hard it is to make. And that's why on all the cooking shows, probably the finale of pastries is a French macaron. So that's one fact that very, very hard to make. Hence the barriers to entry of other companies flooding in. They're just so high that there are very few companies that can make the level of French macaron that we are making. Number two, I think because they're small, each French macaron is anywhere from 80 to 120 calories. So it doesn't really break the calorie bank. Sometimes you get a nice, except for a fruit basket, which, I think has been seen over the last 20, 30 years, however long that's been around. But, cupcakes and little, cream cheese filled cakes and this and that, which often become really nice, but they really break the calorie bank. You take a nice cupcake and you're done with 600-700 calories. And because this is such a hard product to make, it's somewhat exclusive just in nature originally, and we're trying to break that need. Then on Instagram, it just pops up everywhere. It's a bougie experience.
Yeah.
And who doesn't want a bougie experience? And so when you combine these different facts, and if you're a company or a person gifting and you've already done bottles of wine, as Tala said, a nice big package of fruit basket or, a chocolate basket with lots of popcorn and this and that, this really stands out. The colors, the daintiness of it, the packaging. And when you put it together, what we've consistently found is that the gifting products that we provide, the total package of the total experience wows the giftee. And as a giftor, the number one thing you want is just that appreciation of what you gave. And consistently over and over and over again, we keep hearing this, wow, we blew our giftee's mind. And I think it's just putting all that stuff together, and that's what makes us stand out. And as a company, not only do we have so many locations across the US, we run a franchise model. So each of our owners and their employees are celebration experts, and they're putting on the white glove service to provide that service locally. But at the national level, we also have our whole team providing white glove service. So if you're a big company and you have to give out, if you have to get gifts to 10,000 people across the US, we will take that whole process on, and we'll work through the whole journey with you and make sure all your giftees get a phenomenal experience. So it's we're adding that amazing design packaging that Tal and team have created, and then the white glove service. So when you put all that together, that's what makes it stand out and a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and then one more thing to add to that, it's really that sweet, that you can dive into and indulge into, but it makes you feel good about yourself as opposed to making you feel guilty for eating all these chocolates and cupcakes and popcorns and bagels and etc. So there's something about that experience that really makes you feel good about yourself. Like you feel like you deserve it, and it's a moment of pure joy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I think you guys shipped a box of like 24 or something here. I think that was 18 or 24, and I I celebrated every hour by getting up and having one throughout the whole day. So I may have broke the calorie bank in day one, the first box we got. But you're right. No, I love that aspect of it. Like even the fact that you call them celebration experts, I think that's so unique, and it just speaks to like what you're prioritizing and the brand, the message that you're trying to tell. This isn't just chocolate, chocolate is all over the place. You do feel really crappy after you eat chocolate for sure. And all these other pastries and these other things. And you're telling a different story. And you're right. You feel a lot different when you eat those. They're very light and they're small. And then also, I think that it's cool because it's like you said, Raj, like a bougie experience. And I think that people like that too, which is kind of cool. It's very Instagrammable is what, and I think I've posted it on Instagram every time I got a box from you guys. So you started to talk a little bit about your business model, and I'm just curious to dive a little bit deeper into that, if that's okay. So you have franchising. You also sell direct to consumer online. You have the corporate gifting. Like if you were to put your different like revenue streams into like your different buckets, like how would you kind of like piece those together?
So in terms of pure numbers, well, from a strategy perspective, we've always been big believers in this model of kind of being everywhere, but trying to fulfill locally as well. From a small business perspective, I think back to 1999 when the internet craze was there and everyone believed everything's going internet, brick and mortar is going away. Well, that didn't happen. Now, slowly, brick and mortar has condensed and gone tighter, but the human nature is people want to shop. They might not shop directly at the location, but they want to be inspired. They want to try things. And so that's never going to go away. And there is a need for people to come together in a crowded area or an event center. Maybe it's not called malls anymore, maybe, in the distant future, but I think there's still a need for people to come together. And so we'll be there. And in that case, I think it's very important to have local distribution. And that's why you're seeing these internet companies going back and retail companies, and they're still opening up retail stores, but selectively. So by us franchising, we want to have that local presence because, with food product like this, from tasting, from trying, from white glove service, it's really important to be local. And so that is primarily our growth and a large part of our business. That being said, we're filling the white space with people, someone in Montana, South Dakota, wherever it is, and they want to taste what they're seeing. Of course, we can ship out product to them, and that's our e-commerce business. And then with corporate gifting, we have a whole a nationwide sales team working with large companies and even our franchisees. They are, as I said, celebration experts as well, corporate gifting experts as well. So it's a tag team approach. So going forward, I think it's going to be a balance of our team in New York continuing to do business development, build corporate gifting and employee gifting and customer appreciation, and continuing to push the frontier. But even at the local level, it's a phenomenal experience that companies can get with our local franchisees.
So when did you decide to go into to begin actually franchising? Like how soon was it that you guys began that journey?
Pretty soon, I think, because again, like Raj and Gil and Gal, our partners, like they actually come from a franchising experience. So they're like the mindset was very much already there when we started, or once we identified that there's an opportunity for it. I think it was 2013 or 14 that we started, Raj.
Yeah, it was 2 years in. So, I mean, the decision to franchise is really, how do you want to grow? Do you have the capabilities and the capital to grow yourself? Or you have the brand standards and something that you can just keep replicating and bring other people in. And we decided, franchising would allow us to grow faster than corporate growth. I think it was 2000. 14 we decided, and then 15 we really cranked it up.
We had a
Wow.
sense of
So that was pretty
urgency.
quick.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that was pretty quick. So you guys were launching, was it 2011? Was that the year you
2012,
launched?
yeah.
Or 2010?
End of 2012. Yeah.
Or 2012, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So you franchised relatively fast.
We were
It
in a
sounds like.
hurry. We had this sense of urgency. We felt, that we are part of a trend, or that we are a leading brand in a trend that we didn't know if it's gonna be a trend or if it's here to stay. And we really wanted to make sure that we become the name of French macaroons, and that people know us. That we take advantage of the trend while it's still hot. And that's why we were in a hurry to grow. We wanted to take advantage of it. Of course, it cost us with a ton of mistakes and failures along the way, as every rapid growth, I guess, would have. But yeah, the good news is that we realized 10 years after that it was not a trend or not a fad, and that this is a product that the American it was introduced to the American palate. Around those years, maybe a couple of years earlier, but became a product that people know more and more about. And nowadays you can find it in, like, when we started seeing macaroons in Geico advertisement, I think, and like banks started putting macaroons next to computers, then we realized, okay, we're becoming this product is becoming mainstream and it's not going anywhere. Yeah.
To clarify, I mean, so we were afraid that it's a trend, but what we realized, and so the reason why we wanted to franchise was not to kind of pump and dump. That was not by any means the thought. The thought was, if you look back at history, when there is a trend, a lot of people come in, but it's usually the one with the highest quality and the largest number of locations that continues for a long period of time. So let's say in the cupcake world, 2006 to 2009, there were a few cupcake companies. Magnolia made it really popular after Sex and the City, and just you had mom and pops flood in. I remember I was in Dallas at that time, and there was this one girl who was buying off this store-bought powders, making cupcakes, and then when people found out, everyone stopped going to them. So it just kind of shows you how easy it was to get in there, and then it crashed. But there's still three top companies that exist: Sprinkles, Georgetown Cupcake, Magnolia, just because they were that popular, that large, and they were clear product leaders. And that's what we saw with our product, that if it was going to be a fad, and we knew that it was still tough to make, so we were protected a little bit. But let's say if it was a fad, it was very important for us to be the clear leaders internationally with a number of locations. And that's why it was the race to let's get as many open as possible. We were very focused on the business model, not just sell a lot. We're very much about ROI as a business. And we said, okay, how do we run this from the smallest footprint possible, but try to get the biggest bang, and so that we're protecting ourselves, even if there's a little bit of a dip in store level revenue, but we just got to get open as many locations as possible. And we want Woops to be synonymous with French macaroons in the US. And, it's still a battle. We're still doing that. We're still finding so many people who've seen macaroons, they know the name, but they've never tried it. Being on the ground, I was just on the ground for 6 weeks in different parts of the country, and it still shocks me when I give them a French macaroon. Their minds are blown every time because they've never had it, they've seen it, and then they finally get what the whole deal is about.
Sometimes they had it in like a Costco or Trader's Joe packages, that nowadays are everywhere, but then they don't understand what's the fuss about, like why is everybody so excited about it? And then when they try ours, they get the real experience, and they understand why this is such a special product.
Yeah, I had never had one until you guys sent me some.
Really?
It's kind of, I knew about them, but I had literally never had one until you sent me a box. And I don't know if there's like this, I've been in plenty of bakeries all over and I've seen them, but I've never actually like purchased one. And maybe it's just like averseness to new things. We all go to the restaurant, and we all order the same thing we've had all the time, and we rarely venture out. And maybe that has happened to a degree too with like, with products like yours. People get in, they're like, oh, I get the same croissant every time, or I get the same whatever that is. So to a degree, you guys are trailblazing in the US from that standpoint.
Yeah. And to that point, to what you just mentioned, what I'm finding is, well, there's three things that are making it tough for people to try. One, accessibility, and that's what we're trying to break down and try to get more locations in different parts of the country. We're in Knoxville, we're in Oklahoma City. We're not just kind of cherry picking the big cities, the left and West Coast. But so accessibility, they see it on Instagram. And then when you have access to it, it might be in the big box stores. That's usually not the best experience. That's what we consistently find. So if a person's had it, they haven't had a good experience. And then it's kind of hard to have them try this. And when they do try our macaroon, it's like, oh my God, I'm missing out on something. And then even price point, Americans have gone so used to large pastries at a reasonable cost. And then when you just kind of visually look at this, we're looking at a French macaroon that's small at a similar price to a larger pastry. And obviously this is a very different product and all about quality. So, Americans are sometimes averse to, they'd rather go for the large cookie or the croissant or something else in the pastry case instead of a small French macaroon.
Yeah, but also,
which we're trying to.
But also to add, like, just the shopping experience of macaroons is a very, very unique experience. Like when you stand in front of a counter full of macaroons and you have different flavors, it's really irresistible. Like you have this large display of colors and flavors, and you're just mesmerized by the colors. And it's like entering, like you don't know what to pick. It's a very, very unique shopping experience, and you just want this and this and this and that. And the fact that they're small allows you to do that. So that goes back to retail and why retail is important still for us.
I guess one thing that I'd be really curious to dive into before we kind of close up is like, in 10 years, you guys have done so much. Like you've grown a lot from my perspective, to see franchising, that's a whole new world to me. So I'm just like, wow, that's a lot. You guys have a team worldwide, Tal, I know I met with some of your team from different parts of the country and different parts of the world. Like you guys have a team in so many different places. Like that takes a lot of strong leadership, in my opinion, to do that. And so I'm just curious, like, how have you been able to manage the growth from like a people standpoint?
Well,
You want to start?
you want to go ahead?
No, go for it.
I think what really like the most important thing that kind of kept us together and kind of kept us motivated and allowed us to grow is really first and foremost our partnerships. And we almost, I would say, like somewhat like a random group of people who became really good friends through circumstances, and we're very different from one another also, but there's something about we come from different places and backgrounds, but something about our partnership is just so strong, and one of us always knows when to kind of pull the others in, and like in moments of despair and challenges and all, there's always some of us that push further, and we don't allow each other to kind of go to those dark places in the tough moments. So there's that, and then there's also I think the respect that we have for each other and the trust that we have in each other, that we allow each other to do what we're best at. And of course, that like we had our journey there too, but definitely in the past couple of years, like we've really learned to give each other the space to work and kind of do our best, and not only like interfere in what we're doing, but kind of split the work and trust that all of us are giving it what we can. Yeah, and that's probably why we're still here.
And then, with I think Tal nailed it for sure, that our partnership is what allows us to stay strong. And even during COVID, when things got really, really tough, we pared down the company down to basically the partnership. So, and there's very little ego amongst us. I mean, there's always going to be some ego, but still, for the benefit of the company, we're willing to move things around, try different things, push ourselves. But that's only at the leadership level. When I think we've been blessed with some great people for two reasons. One, the product and the journey that we've gone through not motivates people, but makes people feel connected to something that makes sense. So we do get some great talent who are excited just naturally by the product and our product leadership in the industry. But I think more importantly, we hire right. We hire people before growth. We're hiring people that fit with the brand and who understand the mission, and they, who are hard workers, and they're phenomenal. So, kudos to the large team that we have, just because, they see us as great partners and we see them as essential partners. And, we wear our emotions on our sleeve, and we're very open, and we have a very flat structure. It's not this big, temple of greed, or we're not at the ivory tower by any means. Every Friday we have a call, and it's an all hands on deck call, and we're very open about everything. And so I think that the way our partnership has led down to the employee level worldwide. And I think, not only do we appreciate these amazing people that work with us, but, we treat them as partners as well. I think one of our most phenomenal stories, that shows how we think about this is one of our current co-CEOs, Ben. He came in as a franchise development partner. So he's not even one of the original co-founders, but he moved up into franchise. I mean, he was helping develop franchise. He was a salesperson. He became a franchisee. From there, he sold his units and became part of the corporate team as a salesperson. And then, we saw an opportunity for him to move up. So there's a meritocracy in the business for sure. And as I said, we're all about trying to do the right thing in a flat structure as much as possible.
Yeah, and I would love to add another thing on our team as well. As Raj said, we are blessed with an amazing team and talent, and I think for a lot of them who kind of have been with us for a long time. I think you have to understand that you can't do everything on your own, and you have to trust your team, and you have to be able to give them the responsibility. And let them grow with you. A lot of our employees, or like a lot of members of our teams, are people who started in the most kind of basic positions. Sometimes, right now we have like for instance, one of our team members now is the person who does all of our visual creative. Like he actually started as an employee behind the counter in one of our locations. We had another employee that also started in one of our locations in New Jersey, and she just kind of built herself up in the location itself, and eventually kind of joined kind of the corporate team and became a marketing manager. And we just try to make them real core members, like equal in their opinion and their responsibility. And we wouldn't be able to be where we are without it, for sure.
That's so admirable. It's cool to see from the distance what you guys have done with your team and the company. What I will say is to anybody listening, you guys do personal gifting from like anniversaries to birthdays or Mother's Day. There's so many different occasions that your products make sense, that create that really unique experience. So anyone listening right now, go to ByWoops.com. So that's ByWoops.com. And if you're a business and you do any kind of gifting to your clients, your customers, or just even your people, I'm sure people in your companies come to you guys and even do that internally, where you can provide a really cool, tasty experience for your employees and your staff. So I'm gonna have Dylan make a link at alleypodcast.com/whoops, WOOPS, and then we'll just have that direct to your guys' your corporate gifting, because that's a really unique experience too that I know our team wants to begin using as well. But I think there's no better way to kind of end on that note. Is people are super important, and to be where you are right now has taken a lot of effort, a lot of grind, a lot of pain, and a lot of wins. And your people are clearly a focal point for you and your business. So thank you for being on. Everyone listening, this has been the E-Commerce Alley podcast, produced by the legendary Dylan Counts. And on behalf of Tal, Raj, and the entire team at the E-Commerce Alley and ByWoops, we want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for being here with us. So go forth and make the world a better place with your products.